Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make a node setup that turns any texture into a paint version of itself. You can apply this to normal maps, you can apply this to diffuse textures, you can use this in the compositor, totally up to you how you want to apply this. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing we're going to use is our UV map, and we are going to make sure that's set to the correct UV map for our object. I've just downloaded a photo scan here, so it comes with a UV map. Otherwise, you will need to UV unwrap your object. Next, we're going to plug this into a Voronoi texture, and we are interested in the color and position outputs. Then we're going to duplicate our Voronoi texture and set it to distance to edge. What we're going to do now is generate UV coordinates for our brushstroke. So to do this, we will take the position and subtract it from the UV map. What this is saying is take the center point of the UV tile and take the distance between that and the UV map at a given pixel. But this is, if you'll notice, doesn't reach 1. The UV map is scaled down. So in order to increase this, we need to add a value node here, plug that into our Voronoi textures, and then add a scale node and plug that value into the scale node, which will make all of the colors brighter, which means that our UVs go from the full 0 to 1 range. Next, what we want to do is add some random rotation to these UV coordinates. So what we're going to do is add a vector rotate node. We're going to take the Voronoi textures color and separate color. If you'll notice, when I change the angle of the vector rotate node, the UV coordinates spin around their center. So what we want to do is multiply one of the channels by tau, T-A-U. You can type that directly into here, which is 2 times pi, and then plug that into the angle. And now you'll see that every cell has a random rotation. So that's really good. However, we're still getting these negative UV coordinates here that we don't want. So we're going to add 0.5 to our UV coordinates so that they start at 0 and go up to 1. After that, we're going to add in an image texture node and select our brushstroke, which for me is something like this. And just plug the output of the add node into your brush texture. Now if we preview that, you'll see that every cell has a random brushstroke. However, there are these weird white lines between the cells, and to mitigate that, we're going to do one simple trick. Change the sampling type to smart on the image texture, and that gets rid of it. If you still don't like this sharp line right here, what you can do is take the output of your Voronoi distance to edge node, plug it into a map range, set the from to something very low like 0.1, which will give you something like this, and then multiply that against your brushstroke texture. And that will pretty much erase those sharp edges. And you can adjust the fall off so that you get exactly the quality that you want. So now that we have our brushstroke texture scattered all around our object, we need to sample our base color for each Voronoi cell. This is really easy to do. We just get our base color right here, and into the UV coordinate, we plug the output of our Voronoi texture's position output. And that will give you something like this. If I increase the scale, you'll see here that we get more small patches and we start to reveal more detail. So the higher the scale, the more detail you get. Next, we're going to add a mix node, set it to color, plug in the output of this multiply node to the factor, and plug our Voronoi diffuse color into B. And now you'll see that the brushstrokes are just adding a little bit of color onto a blank background. So that's all well and good, but there's a lot of dead space here that we want to fill with brush strokes, and we could try to increase the scale, but all that does is make the brush strokes smaller. So what we actually need to do is layer brush strokes of different sizes onto each other. To do that, we will use a repeat zone. For this, you need to be in Blender 5.1, I believe. And so all we need to do is take the iterations and plug it into that value where our scale was going before, and then plug the output of our mix node into the output of the repeat zone. If you'll notice, at first, there will be nothing, but on the left side, we'll have created this new color input, and we'll want to plug that all the way in on the right here into our A factor. And now if I increase the iterations, you can see that we're filling the object with brushstrokes. And the higher the iteration count, the smaller the brushstrokes. A little bit of this gray peeks through. So in order to fix that, you can duplicate your base texture again and just plug that in as the starting value, which will start it with your base texture and then add brushstrokes on top of that. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole system. Thank you for watching my tutorial. If you want to buy a node group that already has this, but a better version that uses closures and bundles to be really user-friendly, it's up on my GUMROAD for $5. Um, I really appreciate everyone who buys my stuff. It supports me and helps me keep making content and keep making tutorials and assets and tools for everyone to use. So yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful day and happy blending.